So I needed to get my driver's license renewed. And you know, you have to do that at the location. So what was I expecting when I got there? Long lines, grumpy people. So I was prepared. I filled my bag up. I had my tablet in there. I had another book. I had some snacks. I was in for the long haul, right? So I make my way over. I get the little number, you know, click out of there. And I no more had put my bottom down on a chair. They called my number. So I make my way over to the counter, and surprising, right behind that counter was a gentleman smiling. He was engaged. He was enthusiastic to help me out. Really what happened was, in 5 minutes or less, he helped me take care of that business, and I was back out in the parking lot, no time at all. Wow, what gives? I mean, I'm not picking on the Department of Driver Services, but what's their reputation? I mean, stereotypes become that way for a reason, right? In fact, that stereotype of what we experience in places like the DDS or other companies too is so rampant. In fact, there's a movie out. Have you seen this? It's an animated movie. It's about animals who are ruling the world. It's called Zootopia. Have you seen this one? And so the different animals are in different positions. And so which animal, does anybody know, that they use to represent the Department of Driver Services? Does anybody know? It was a sloth. It was the sloth. The deal is that that's an issue all over. We recognize that. And so the interesting part about engagement is Gallup says 70% of the American workforce is disengaged at work. Now that bothers me. It surprises me too. But I realize that engagement, it comes in different forms. And in fact, the worst part of it is it's been that statistic for 12 years running. Now, we all know what disengagement looks like, right? We've experienced this. I'm talking about that person you know that just seems to be going through the motions, you know, to make it to the weekend or to make it to retirement. And we've been with a customer, somebody at a counter who's, you know, sighing or rolling their eyes like we're an inconvenience. You know what I'm talking about? Well, I think there are 3 reasons this is going on. And it's rampant right now. One reason is I believe that a lot of individuals are in jobs that they're ill-suited for. They may have taken the job because they needed it, but it wasn't something they loved to do, or maybe something that was even in their strength zone. What's interesting is Gallup in that same survey found out, get this, 77% of those people surveyed said they were not doing something that was in an area of strength for them. Now that's sad. How easy is it for you to love what you do if you're not very good at it? What happens is people get discouraged. They disengage when they're doing something that's not one of their strengths. So I think that's one big reason. Another reason I think this is happening so much is leadership. We've got an issue and leaders are struggling. In fact, that same 70% disengaged is the same for leaders. Now, when I heard that the first time, I was a little bit shocked by that. But is it any wonder, how can a staff member be engaged if their leader isn't? It trickles down through the organization and can be toxic at all levels. Well, the third reason that I think it's going on has to do a little bit with how the economy's run over the last little while. Okay, so back with me 10 years ago when people were laying off and we were out of jobs and people were just happy to have a job. Well, I think companies took a little bit advantage of that. What happens was many of them dropped their wages or their hours. Some of them stopped doing the same kind of bonuses or incentives. Many of them even canceled holiday parties and things like that. Well, fast forward to today, 10 years now, the tables have turned a little bit. And now unemployment is quite low, and those same companies are having trouble finding great employees and for sure having trouble keeping them. Now, not every company is struggling with this. Tell me one that you know that you experience right here in Atlanta that's probably got this down pretty good. Can you tell me who I'm thinking about?
Coke.
Coke is one, absolutely. Give me another. Chick-fil-A. Okay, so let me just talk about Chick-fil-A for just a second. Okay, what is it we all experience when we go through the drive-thru? What do we hear? It's my pleasure every time. Now, let me just say that is a brilliant strategy to keep those teenagers, you know, the ones working in the drive-thru. Here's how brilliant it is. If they arrived not that it was not a pleasure for them to be there, by the 150th time they said it, At that point, it is a pleasure. But I have to tell you, Chick-fil-A corporate has this down cold. In fact, they've spent an enormous amount of time and effort to make sure that all levels of their corporate culture helps to bring on strong people, to nurture them and to promote them and to keep them. In fact, they're so good at it, they have a phenomenal retention rate. Does anybody know what it is? If you were to guess, scale of 1 to 100, what percentage do you think they were at retention? 86, that's a good guess. Give me another one. 97%. That's crazy and phenomenal in any industry. Well, we can learn a lot from Chick-fil-A and other companies who are doing it really, really well. But what we have to learn is what is it that causes somebody to want to be engaged at work? So there was a book written, it's called Smart Tribes. And they talk about sort of the needs that you and I have when we go to work, why we want to really love what we do. And they actually base it on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You guys remember this from high school and college? You know, remember that triangle? And at the bottom was like safety and security, and at the top all the way was sort of self-actualization. Well, this is a small bit of it, and it starts out with safety. We all in the workplace, obviously from a physical standpoint, we need to feel safety. But we also need to feel safe in the work that we're doing, and so that's foundational. There are 2 more pieces to that little triangle that are critical and more difficult to get a handle on. That next one up is that everybody wants to belong to something. I mean, you and I want to be a part of something even bigger than us. We want to be a part of something important, and that belonging is so critical to engagement. But there's another piece too. Most of us, we want to just know that the work we're doing matters. That it matters to the customer, that it matters to our boss, that it matters to the entire organization. So those things are important for us to figure it out. In order to fix this, I believe there are 3 levels we need to tackle. Number 1, we need to make a place for individuals to find their strengths. We need to be sure that they know what it is they're doing well and they can continue to do that, and then plug them into the kind of job that helps them practice that strength. Well, there are assessments out there. StrengthsFinder 2.0 is a great one. Lots of different places that we can help nurture that individual, you and I, so that we're doing something we love. The second area that we can tackle, that next level, is we need to support our leaders. We need to be able to give them the tools and the skills to be able to engage teams. What's interesting is I talk to a ton of leaders, and most of them don't know the first step on how to begin to engage their own team. And I'll tell you, it starts one person at a time. But in order to help them, we need to give them support straight from the top. Because it takes time to build relationships that cause people to feel like they belong and they matter. But lastly, the next level we need to tackle is all the way to the top of the organization. Just like Chick-fil-A, we need to be very intentional about the kind of culture that we build up. To be able to build a structure like an undergirding to help everyone support, empowering our teams, giving strength to leaders, helping individuals feel a part of it. And that goes all the way through, not just from the C-suite, but it goes straight down to the customer when they feel that. And so it's important for us to have all of these things. And you know, really, I mean, how bad is all of this when you think of the situations that are going on? Why is engagement such a big deal? Why is that a buzzword today? Well, part of the thing is that leadership old style of just show up and do your job, well, it just doesn't work anymore. Well, I don't think it ever really worked. But the deal is, disengagement is costing us billions, not just from companies, but you and I as customers. And you know what? It's not stopping in our workplaces. It's trickling down to our schools and even into our families. It's time for us to take ourselves and our workplaces and plug them back in. And so when I went to the DDS, I kind of had low expectations. You know, I wasn't expecting much, but I walked out of there encouraged. I walked out of there kind of excited. I began to think, wow, you know, if they can do it, anybody can do it. And so I'm excited about being able to be a part of making a change there. I'm really on a mission to help organizations, help the individual, the leader, and the entire organization build the kind of workplace, gosh, that's fun, that's exciting, motivational, and inspiring to be a part of. After all, don't we all really, even though 70% are disengaged, I believe you and I really want to love what we do and to make a difference for the people that we're serving. And so I'm excited to be a part of that because you know what? Life is too short to just be going through the motions. It's Toastmaster.